And they're wearing the real civil guards during the colonial period of Spanish period.
Okay.
So we're now here in Paco Park. Paco Park is a 200-year-old cemetery, and it's not just cemetery. It is also this is also famous for taking pictures and having weddings here. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So during 1800s, the Franciscans they built this cemetery because of the epidemic cholera. So cool. And then that one. Is St. Pancratius Chapel, a small dome, and it is named from the Pancras of Rome, the patron of here in Paco Park.
Nice.
And before it used to be one of the Tondo, Manila, and then in 1960s they made it a recreational sport.
Oh, okay.
So every Sunday we have service. Yeah, mass. And then during every December also we have like caroling here. We're singing here. There are choirs, and then it's also famous during November or October 31st.
Following World War II, there was actually an orchestra from Germany that was invited to play here, and they were broadcasted across national TV.
That's pretty cool.
The reason why they keep the chapel closed is because they have some gold decorations as well as artifacts still there inside.
During the Japanese era, the occupation of the Japanese, they made here trenches. So that's why a lot of mining in the Philippines.
That's crazy.
And it used to be called Cemetery de Dilao, because of the gardens, because of those plants that looks like yellow.
Okay.
Amaryllis, I forgot the name. Yeah.
Amaryllis?
Yeah.
Oh, the amaryllis flower. Interesting.
If you want a picture, it's still open every Sunday. They have a service there.
Looks like there's bullet marks, and that is from the war. That's interesting.
artwork that we will see has material coming from China. Chinese and Filipinos had established trade routes one with another for hundreds of years. And when the Spanish came and commandeered control of the Philippine economy, they started to exchange metal for stone as well, and building a lot of their era's architectural designs, usually to withstand earthquakes and different things like that. So you'll notice a lot of this work has a similar look to it.
And then as you can see the niche here.
Oh. Can't be too tall.
Yeah, it's a strong adobe.
There is a belief that if you build thick, it would be less creaky, less.
And then that is our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal.
Jose Rizal.
Yeah, Jose Rizal.
I went to
The
Rizal Park.
Mason. He used to be buried here during the 1896 of December 13. And then he's been here for 12 years. So Jose Rizal, he made novels. So when we were in high school, we used to read the novels of Jose Rizal.
And when you say the Mason, what do you mean by the Mason?
Jose Rizal was many things. He was an educator, he was a scientist, he was an eye doctor, he was a Freemason.
Oh, he was a Freemason. That's why specific why I asked. Okay. Okay.
So
for 12 years.
12 years. What happened is that in the 1800s, the Spanish could not hide the fact that they were persecuting many of the Filipinos under their rule. And as a result, many different regimes and groups tried to stand up against the Spanish, but to no avail. By the 1890s, there was a generation of young scholars, just like Jose Rizal, who started to, in their own way, talk about the Philippines and share about their experiences outside in Europe, where they were taking education. Jose Rizal, for example, was able to travel through Spain, France, Germany, and many of these different areas, and obtain good friends who shared many of his ideals and were able to give their opinions on the Philippines at the time.
Right.
Now, knowing this, many of Jose Rizal's friends, like Juan Luna, became great painters and had many awards in Spain for their writings and for their arts. Now, from there, Jose Rizal said, why can't the Filipinos be known for their novels? So he put together a series of stories to create a historical fictional account of what was happening in the Philippines in Spanish, so that Europeans would know what is actually happening in the Philippines, instead of hearing it from Spanish authorities who wanted to sugarcoat things in order to keep receiving support for the government.
There you go.
Knowing this, when Jose Rizal returned from his travels, having published 2 books, one of which being
No Limit Tangere and El Filipisterismo.
They ended up keeping a good eye on him, thinking that he was some propagandist who was against the power. But in reality, many of his writings, including newspaper articles, talked about how the Philippines should be treated as equal in the Spanish Empire. So he wasn't advocating for a rebellion, but just for equality.
Yes,
Right.
What ended up happening, though, is that time and time again, the Spanish showed that they weren't going to support these ideals. And so many of the different people who interacted with Jose Rizal as Masonry became a part of Filipino society would secretly exchange ideas, saying that we should support one another and maybe the idea of a Philippine nation. As these people were starting to be found out, rebellion started. And there is one large group known as the KKK, not in the contemporary case of the USA, but as the Katipunan.
Kataas-taasang, kagalang-galangang katipunan ng bayan. KKK.
Which stands for the High Honorable Sons and Daughters of the Nation. So these collection of people started to fight against the Spanish. The Spanish blamed Jose Rizal. Oh, these are your friends. You made these groups. No, he had no connection. Well, he did make one group known as La Liga Filipina. It was simply a place for people to exchange ideas on reform.
We had that on our campus.
As a result, we ended up seeing him being the persecuted of the group. And he was jailed and was then slated to be martyred.
Wow.
there was a time in which the friends came up to him in prison, ready to break him out, saying, look, our group is starting to get power. We could do this, we can have our own nation, and we can free you. But Jose Rizal believed in the Spanish government. And he said, you don't have to. They will see the error of their ways.
So he created La Liga Filipina.
Yes.
That's crazy.
On
All these
December
years, I
30th,
never knew that.
That's when he was told that he was going to be killed, held before a court-martial. They said that either you're going to pay hundreds of thousands of pesos or you're going to pay with your life. The shorthand of it, no normal Filipino would be able to pay for the price. So he'd have to be killed. His parents and his family and many other respected individuals pled for his case, but they denied him. And he was shot by a shooting squad in Luneta Park.
Yeah, before it used to be Bagong Bayan.
Exactly.
Yeah. And all his remains are his corpses in there now, in Rizal Park.
Yes. On the day of, the Spanish tried to hide his body by just throwing him in a small ditch right here. Took his sister 3 days to find him and to place a marker so that they could really see that it was his body and come back to him following the revolution. Wow. It was in 1912 when his bones were taken and placed in Bagong Bayan, where the current Rizal Shrine is. And so his bones are still there today. Though there is one piece of his bones which are kept in Fort Santiago, where we'll be going to later on today.
His spine.
Yeah, right? Just to see his bone.
Yeah.
Not his bones, his bone.
I must have missed that when I went. That's crazy. Okay. That's interesting. Learned a lot. That's crazy. See, now, it's interesting because when I was in school, when I was in school, La Liga Filipina was one of the big groups that, you know, I kind of hung out with them, but I kind of didn't take it serious because I wasn't in there. So now to hear him explain that that group was originated from this guy right here, and I've been here for a while, and I keep seeing this guy's name pop up, but I never knew why. But now I'm never gonna forget that name, just because now I have something to actually tie it to, something from my past. What is actually interesting is I noticed the Mason symbol, but I don't see the Mason symbol, but I see the Mason sign. So it's kind of interesting to know that he was actually a Freemason. They are everywhere, people. It's interesting.
One cute thing that I like about coming to Paco Park is that this is actually one of the hangouts of my grandpa when he was going to school to become a lawyer.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. I remember his stories. All the ghost stories too. During the 1800s, the early 1800s into 1822,
yeah,
there was a cholera pandemic, very similar to how we had the Spanish influenza,
yep,
and then COVID-19.
Yep.
So every 100 years we always have an epidemic coming through somewhere. And this area right here was where many different children and people were buried due to being victims of the sickness.
Ah, right here.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually why we have this second wall. The second wall of Paco Park was meant to accommodate the amount of people.
Wow. It's interesting. Are those real?
I know what it is.
Uh-huh.
Is it real?
Yeah.
It is real, yeah.
Those are really skulls right there?
Yeah.
Originally, the cemetery was only meant to be for the nobility of the Spanish society here. It was only because of the pandemic that they decided that they needed to accommodate many of the common people. So that's why the second wall was built, to accommodate for the common people.
Oh, I didn't even see the name.
So here, for example, you would purchase a slot for you to be able to be buried.
Oh shit. That's interesting.
That means they came from elite. Yeah, right.
And
There's
even
no
a-
name.
Is that a
Yes.
hole in there?
No name, no name.
Think so? Nah, it doesn't go too deep though.
So they're just closed off forever, right?
Yeah, it's
They're
close
actually in here right now.
No, there are some that were. They say that some of them were broken into over time.
They broke
And-
into like these bricks right here?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they say that some of them were broken into during World War II, and so some of them are empty nowadays. Others might still have the bodies, but internment for the dead ceased in 1913 following Jose Rizal's remains being put into Luna at the Park. So as a result, they stopped for a long time by the time the Second World War happened. So can't really say for sure. Can't really look inside. It'd be better to respect.
Yeah, I saw this before.
Eso es Spanish.
Wait, so why would they break into
Manila,
What do they have?
Barça,
To steal?
There are some.
2 años. 6 años.
2 years and 5 days.
Oh, yeah.
1910.
10.
Yeah. The father.
It's a baby.
It's a big. Wow. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's a baby.
But there are stories that they broke into somebody's
That's crazy.
So they use it as torture. So they say that some of them were broken into.
2 years old.
Others for grave robbers. So that's what we got this time. But hopefully, you know, we can kind of give respect where it's due.
And there's more in there. There's a lot more in there. Wow.
There's a restroom.
Many of the
Yeah.
other restaurants I will be going to are usually paid, so feel free to take advantage of it free while we can.
Yeah, it's free.
All right, y'all. I'll be right back.
There are Filipino friars and they are from Cavite.
Friars?
So yeah, friars. So
Gotcha.
Filipino friars. So they are killed. So this is a memorial for the Gomburza. They are Jose Burgos, Mariano Gomez, and then Jacinto Zamora. So they are the 3 Filipino friars that died because of the garote. We call it garote. So they found out that their head was removed by the garote. And then their case was mutiny.
Gotcha.
Well, it was a case of fraud in the case that Jose Burgos and Mariano Gomez were stalwart members of the community who were also teachers. What happened is that they taught equality, which put them on the hit list.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What ended up happening is that the Spanish authorities had no way to push them to the side, especially since many of the Filipino-Spanish community were great advocates for one another because it was one of the only ways for them to obtain any kind of influence or equality in the community by having blood from the Spanish. Now what happened is, as these three were able to obtain their education as a result of their mothers being part of this community, they were able to become great teachers. As a result of their standing and the words that people heard from them, the Spanish wanted them out. And what ended up happening is that there was a mutiny following a change in the military code where the soldiers would not be paid as much as they were going to before. And so when the mutiny took place, they blamed it on these three men.
Wow.
What happened is that they first blamed Burgos and Gomez and took them in their homes, no warrants, just arrested them. And Zamora, the poor guy, was the youngest, around 22. And he had nothing to do with anything that these other two were involved with, except for the fact that he had visited the home of Gomez the day he was arrested. And without warning, he too was taken as a conspirator.
Wow.
Evidence was planted in their three homes, and they were blamed for the mutiny. And as they were led to Bagong Bayan, where Jose Rizal was also going to be martyred later on, they stood before a crowd and were told by the Spanish that they're just common criminals. One thing though that the Spanish Catholic leaders at the time respected was that, look, as much as we didn't want them either, they are priests, they do deserve some kind of respect. So they let them have their clothes on. And they were going to be tortured and killed. In the crowd of these people who were there to witness their martyrdom was a young Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal would dedicate his first book to these three priests who he saw as some of the martyrs of Philippine independence. And so today they're honored for their contribution in fighting and advocating for education and equality within the system of the Philippines education. So, a little bit more about leading up to the independence movement that took place in 1896.
That's
Shall we?
dope.
And in addition, the women before were not allowed to attend education. We cannot, the only education that we can is praying. Yeah.
I'm definitely going home and researching everything about Jose Rizal. He sounds like a very interesting man. Very interesting man. I'd love to know more.
And also, they were only taught about. And Jose Rizal, one of the others who have education for them.
Literal. Paco Park.